You got your Mega Mac guys here on Birds 365. We're lucky enough to be joined by Kevin Kinkead, lead writer for Crossing Board. All right, I almost feel like we got Mike Gill on the show. What T-shirt you got on there, buddy? You're rocking something.
Well, they are West Virginia guys.
Lean
so
back there.
They're thick.
Yeah, well, we're representing my high school today, the great Boyertown area senior high school. Yeah.
Showing off the athleticism. Now I see that the ego of you, Kevin Kinkead, putting the highlights from the charity game, the NRG. Did you get an MVP trophy? Do you get an MVP?
No, that went to Pat Gallen of the winning team. They went 2-0. Yeah, we went 0-2. I cut the one great highlight that I was able to pull off. But if I did the full reel, there would be an interception in there. There would be some bad overthrows, and
yeah. See, that's what I said. The highlights are great, but I don't know the PFF grade. I got to see the entire film. I don't know if there's the consistency is there from play to play.
I had a couple guys in the end zone. I overthrew one guy so badly that he almost ran into a stack of wooden pallets at NovaCare. But yeah,
you nearly got someone impaled. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, but they got it. They made us sign the waivers, Jody. So no lawsuits, right? So if you run through a wooden pallet, there's no lawyers coming for you. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun. They do this every year. It's from NRG. And they put together this charity game down at in the bubble at NovaCare, and they raise money for CHOP and Phil Abundance and Nemours and Big Brothers Big Sisters, and they do a great job with it. It's fun. We've been going down there and doing it for a while, and the winning team, actually, you get more money to the charity that you're representing, so it makes it a little competitive, because you know that you're playing to get more cash to one of those places, so it's fun. We try to get everybody involved, and the goal is to not get injured and not be too much of a hard ass. So I think we all.
I was impressed, man. You stuck your foot in the ground and went, baby. You still got some juice.
We got the video.
How many years of charity games do you have left? Here we go. Here it is. Look at the page. By the way, I give Breland more credit. She, I think it was Breland who she looked like Kelce getting downfield on that block, but also our friend Devin Caney. She had an angle on you.
There was a good battle going on between those two. Yeah, they were covering each other on both sides of the field. I mean, that was a nice little subplot there. There was a funny picture that I think the NRG people got where there was an awkward.
Yeah. They were trying to high point the football. I saw that one as well.
Yeah. No, it was good. Yeah, they it's a fun time. I mean, it's cool. They bring down former Eagles players come down, and they're sort of like your your coach.
Who was your coach? Mark Parzetta said AJ Feely.
Yeah.
Who was the other coach?
Hollis is one of the other coaches.
Hollis
has a huge bushy beard now. He looks like Rick Ross. It looks great.
Really?
It's like a perfect look for him. Yeah. He's got the bushy beard. I think Sean Landetta was coaching the one team that we didn't play against, and who was the other? Oh, Jason Avant. Jason Avant was down there.
To be truthful, you guys, film on Hollis's beard, Kinkead making a nice cut and going into the end zone, or girls covering each other in a charity song. Yeah, that's the video I want. That's the video I'm saving. Hey, sorry, KK, I'm going to give you your props, then delete it and move on. I'll save that other video for years to come.
Yeah, no, it's fun though. I mean, it's a good to, it's nice doing those things, and they, their NRG has always been good about having us down and picking out some great charities, and then they have representatives from the charities come down too, and they play as well. So it's nice to get to meet some of the CHOP people and some of the Phil Abundance people and whatnot. And it's a good time, and then we can, spray it around social media and throw the posts up and whatnot. And everybody gets I got my highlight reel thing, but I promise I wasn't playing too hard. I didn't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy who's like,
you don't want to be that guy taking it too seriously.
Do you remember? I don't know if you guys remember a couple years ago, they had like a Phillies softball game down at Citizens Bank Park. And Kristen Rogers was working at Fox 29 at the time. I think she left and she went somewhere else, but there was video. Some guy like lost his footing or something, just completely clobbered her third base, and it was like I thought she was injured, but she got up and she was okay. But I always said to myself, right, your goal when you do these things is just not to be that guy. Just don't run over, the
Yeah,
Fox.
Kristen's been on the show. She's a great golfer.
Yeah.
So she's got some competitiveness in there.
Rule number one, don't get yourself hurt. Rule number two,
Yeah.
don't get anybody else hurt. And
Yes,
rule
don't
number
get
three,
don't get yourself hurt. Don't get anybody else hurt. Don't come across as a tool bag, and you should. Then that's considered a successful media charity game performance, I believe.
And
There we
don't
go.
run into any wooden pallets where you can't sue the Eagles because it's a charity affair. All right, let's get back to the birds for a half a second here. I've asked this of basically every guest we've had on the last week or so. Who's going to be starting right guard for the Philadelphia Eagles week 1 against the Patriots in New England?
Oh God, this is like my least favorite topic. You had to start me off with this one, didn't you?
Suck it up, get it done. Come on, Kinkead. Put your foot in the ground and go.
No, I just look. I mean, I think like Giglio wrote that story or about like you got to think about moving on from Jason Kelce if it makes sense. It wasn't an anti. I mean, everybody had the emotion.
Well, I missed that one. You gotta move on from Jason Kelce.
Well, no, he was just kind of talking about the legitimate like business side of like, you drafted his replacement in the second round and you stashed him for a year. And, I mean, really it's unheard of when's the last time you heard of anybody stashing a center? It's not to say that Cam Jurgens can't play guard. I'm sure he can play guard, but I don't know if that was their plan initially. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I still think he's the guy who's going to play, right? But it does make it what we thought was a linear path to him being Jason Kelce's successor, a little non-linear. I don't know if that necessarily screws things up, but I think we were all kind of under the impression that he would just kind of sit that year and then Jason Kelce would walk. But like if he sits for a year and then he plays guard for you and he goes and plays center, I mean, from all indications, he's good enough to do that, but it does kind of
larger perspective, Kevin. Why is everybody like that? Because that is sort of a sentiment, I think, more in modern professional sports. Oh, he can't sit 2 years. Why can't he sit 2 years? Who gives a heck? I mean, it's rare.
Yeah.
But you hear this, he's the 51st overall pick. You got to get him on the field. Well, you got him for 4 years. I mean, ultimately, the goal is him to be center. So whether that's in 2024 or 2023, is it that in the big picture? Is that big of a deal?
No, I guess not. I think you're just looking to extract maximum value for a second round draft pick who's still on the rookie scale. You know what I mean? That's basically the only argument against it. I don't think you have people who are saying, well, you're going to screw up Cam Jurgens' development by moving him over to guard. I don't think anybody's saying that. I just think they're saying like, hey, you used the second round draft pick on this guy and like, let's get him on the field. Right. I don't think it's
this team used a second round draft pick on a quarterback, 14 months after giving the largest contract at the time in franchise history. Yeah, that was a luxury pick, but it turned out to be a necessity.
Yeah. Well, I don't think but that's the thing though. It's a positional thing. Like again, I just thought it was really. I think it says a lot about Jason Kelce that you would stash that his replacement would be a second round pick and a stash. Like it's just unheard of for the offensive line. There's a million stories of drafting quarterbacks and having them sit a couple years, obviously. But I've never. I mean, I think it's the best testament to what Jason Kelce is that you let him have a say in handpicking his successor, and then the successor doesn't necessarily have a direct path to replacing him.
And by the way, this is his third successor. I mean, Isaac Seumalo was drafted to be his successor.
Yeah, that's true.
In his 8th year.
That's true. No, that's true. I mean, it's great. It's funny because we did the top 20. Well, I painstakingly did another top 25 Philadelphia athletes list.
I was going to get to that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think that it's not. I'll say right off the bat, I'm surprised. There should be more Eagles on that list.
Well, you could have filled the whole thing. You could have filled the whole damn thing up with Eagles. That's how good they are now. But I was going to say that Jason Kelce is every year he's the hardest one to rank because if you're going purely on intangibles and fan connection and what he means to the city and his status as a Philadelphia Eagle, you could put him number one on any list. But how do I compare a center to a wide receiver or a quarterback or a guy like Bryce Harper or Joel Embiid. I don't know. I mean, you get these cross sport things, and that's one thing, but I don't know if Jason Kelce is even the most important member of the offensive line. I mean, is the left tackle and the right tackle more important? They're interesting arbitrary discussions, but I get more pushback and I get more feedback on Jason Kelce's placement every single time we do some kind of list like that. More feedback on him and discussion on him than anybody else on those lists.
That's what you're looking for, more feedback. And if you're getting it, then you're doing it right.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you another subjective, hypothetical question right along those lines. Who's the most underrated Philadelphia Eagle? As per Kevin Kinkead's definition of underrated, which might be different than John McMullen's or Jody McDonald's or anybody else's. So you can't give a wrong answer, just a Kevin Kinkead answer. Who's the most underrated Eagle?
I mean, I think they're all pretty good. I think we all know that they're well, I would honestly say Jordan Mailata. Because you get a lot of talk about Lane Johnson. You get a lot of talk about Jason Kelce, obviously. But I mean, I still think that we're all probably in agreement that the most important position on the line is left tackle or blindside tackle, if you have a lefty. But I mean, the Jordan Mailata story just can't be understated. They had a first round draft pick who was stuck on the bench because their 7th round developmental project turned into a stud. That's going to go down when we look back like 20 years from now, 25 years, whatever. That Jordan Mailata draft pick and developmental job will go down as one of the best diamond in the rough.
Oh yeah,
moves made by any team.
Oh yeah, there's a reason Jeffrey Lurie brought it up. It's one of the only 3 times, Kevin Kinkead, that Jeffrey Lurie gave his opinion on draft picks. Russell Wilson, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata. He's 3 for 3. He might want to delve in and give his opinion more often.
Yeah, right. Get your hands in there. Yeah. It's funny because, you have this concept of like, these guys are plug and play compatible. You take them out of the first round, the second round, and they're NFL ready. Right. And I think like in all sports, not just football, but the idea of development is kind of like falling off a bit. That you have guys that don't take off that first year, that second year, but then you like look at what you've done with them. Look at what the coaching staff has done with them. I mean, basketball is the worst offender of this, because nobody used to care about the G League or the D League when it was the D League, right? And look at like what the Miami Heat were able to do with that this year, And I could go off into some sidebar about the Sixers here and their lack of attention to all that. But look at, I mean, Jordan.
I'm with you. I used to say to Mike Gill all the time. I mean, forget about Sam Hinkie. Forget about the process nonsense. Yeah. I mean, that's been legislated to death. But their player development was horrible. It was horrible during his whole regime. It was like, you either draft a good player or don't. And if you don't get a good player, we're screwed. We'll get to the next bad record. Yeah. What about player development? Look at Tyrese Maxey. They developed him. What was he, the 21st pick? Something in that range.
Well, it's naive. It's naive to think, as elite as these athletes are, they're like if they come out of school at like age 20 or 21 or 22 or whatever, to think that is a finished product. I mean, that's such a misnomer. That's such a naive way of thinking, because these guys still have so much further to go. But I mean, when you look back, Jordan Mailata should be the poster child for like talent identification and scouting and the developmental job. And the job that they did with him is amazing. I mean, like you ended up with a franchise left tackle by picking a dude in the 7th round who had never played football before. It's insane when you think about it that way. I think we just kind of gloss over that sometimes.
Do the Eagles have a coach along those lines who can do that with defensive linemen? And I'm specifically thinking of one that they drafted with their 2nd pick in the first round. Not the guy they took at number 9. I'm talking about outside pass rushers and the like. Their guy, Josh Sweat, is a guy who wasn't a high pick and was developed. Derek Bennett was a high pick, supposed to be what he was supposed to be, didn't quite achieve there. Hassan Reddick, a free agent acquisition. Speaking of player development, do we have faith that Mr. Smith from Georgia will be developed correctly and have that same kind of success other defensive edge rushers have had?
I mean, to me, that's probably the biggest storyline going into the Eagles season this year, is it not? You know, these young pieces on the defense and them converting. The larger question of them converting these, you know, quote unquote, these. We say that they won the draft on paper. Okay, well, Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis are basically just got their feet wet last year, and now you got two guys coming in who are rookies. I mean, that to me is going to like be the pivot point on whether they go back to the Super Bowl or not, or even, you know, have the run that they did. But that's 4 dudes that you're relying on this year. What's 4 divided by 11? Like, you know, 40 something % of your defense, right? Or that's a ton of snaps for guys who are like still relatively green. I don't have an answer to the question. That's why I'm sort of vamping here. But I would just say very generically that that's probably the number one focus for me, is on those 4 guys, is on the Georgia guys, you know, because that's a huge chunk of your defense. And as much as we like to say, oh, they nailed the draft, well, these guys haven't done anything yet. I mean, really, they have not done.
I mean, last year, it's funny how quickly people forget. 2022 draft, there were 5 Georgia defenders in the first round, right?
Mm-hmm.
Starting with Trayvon Walker, who was number 1 overall, pretty good player, but wasn't, you know, as splashy as, say, Aiden Hutchinson, who went number 2. Jordan Davis was next at 13. We know what he did here. Then you got to go down to Devontae Wyatt, Quay Walker, and Lewis Seen were all picked in the first round. None of them were, you know, Walker was the best as number 1 overall, but, you know, it's not like they're good. They're stars right away. Now that they might all become stars, to your point of player development, but the assumption that you get a finished product, I think, has become pervasive in sports as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, they're very, aren't they just, excuse me, aren't they just very green in general on that side of the ball? I mean, Sean Desai, first year with the Eagles, you know, these Georgia guys, Nakobe Dean, basically a glorified special teamer last year, Jordan Davis, who didn't play a ton of snaps relative to what you would expect from a first round pick, and then 2 rookies that you have on there. You know, Brandon Graham's not getting any younger, right? The linebacker core is going to be brand new. The corners are going to be your strength, along with Hassan Reddick, but, you know, safety is interesting. So it's just a lot of question marks over there. You know, it's not, we had discussions, we talked about this on Crossing Broadcast, where we were basically like, you know, we talk about like theoreticals like DeAndre Hopkins, right? You know, it's like any single guy who gets released, you know, the article that goes up immediately is player X got released. Should the Eagles take a look at him? Right? You know, it's like summer fodder for people who don't have anything to write, you know. But we were talking about the concept of like, okay, well, the offense is already elite. Like, what is the next step for adding another offensive piece? Do you go from elite to very elite, or do you go from elite to like uber elite? You know, it's almost like, where do you reach the point, John McMullen, where you get diminishing returns on that scale of like how much more talent can you add on that side? But then you come back on the other end and you're like, look, you know, if they were in a shootout with the Chiefs and you think that the future of the NFL or winning is just going to be to win a shootout and just, you know, look at the way that the 2 Super Bowls that they played in turned out. I mean, the defenses got gashed. All 4 defenses got gashed in those Super Bowls. So like maybe you just say, these are the pieces we have on defense. We're going to put all our eggs in the offensive basket and just try to outscore everybody. Like, would we be surprised if the Eagles win a bunch of high-scoring games this year?
No, I mean, Jeffrey's talked about it. That's, you know, and look at the 2 Super Bowls. You mentioned it. You're right. In the past, Super Bowl 52, what's the difference between 52 and 57? The 52 defense made the one play. The 57 didn't. That is my
takeaway line that I've been saying for the last 4 months now. Super Bowl 57 was Super Bowl 52 without the strip sack.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all it was. They gave up more points. They gave up more points and more yards.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In Super Bowl 52. I think I don't know what the possession numbers or the time of possession was off the top of my head, because the Jalen Hurts fumble kind of screwed all that up. You know, that was an extra possession that the Chiefs probably should have had. But still, I mean, like, the bottom line is Jim Schwartz, Matt Patricia, Spags, and Jonathan Gannon, they all got cooked.
Yep. Every
So
single one of them.
You know,
and that's why
Schwartz was upset even after winning the game. He was upset.
That's why Derek Barnett's going to make the squad this year, because he made that one play that you're talking about. No, he's not. He's not going to make the team.
I'm laughing at the comments, by the way, because I have my kitchen in the background. Yes, the cabinets are like old fashioned wood. It's very 90s.
That's
looks
good.
very 90s.
Good on you. It looks good from here. So here's my question. Come down for both of you guys. Who is going to coach Nolan Smith? Is it going to be Jeremiah Washburn, or is it going to be DJ Elliott? Because John loves to get involved in this.
That's not even a question.
What is an edge guy? What is a linebacker? Linebacker coach, outside linebacker / defensive end. Who is Smith going to be coached by? Is he going to spend any time in DJ Elliott's room, or is it purely going to be with Washburn?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Were there any clues, John, at like OTAs?
Yeah, he's being coached by Jeremiah Washburn. There's no open ended. He's an edge rusher. Now, I was, because we, I think some fans get a little, when you get from 90 to 53, as I always say. Now, you might have a bunch of injuries. So I'm not saying if you're mid-season and two linebackers are hurt and you need somebody to play, Nolan Smith might have to play a little bit of ball linebacker, but they don't want him to play ball linebacker. And, the best indication he is being coached by Jeremiah Washburn, I've already asked him that question, but 2 days after the Eagles ended OTAs, he was out in Las Vegas at Von Miller's pass rushing camp. It's not at all ball linebacker camp. He's trying to pick Von Miller's brain. He is an edge rusher. I guess because he weighs 238 pounds, people are having a difficult time accepting that. Hassan Reddick weighs 235. I mean, he is an edge rusher. And the question is, how did they develop him? And we know how important the Eagles believe. They were trying to fix that fourth. Derek Barnett tore his ACL week 1 in Detroit. The Eagles want to come at you in waves. They have Reddick, they have Sweat, they have Graham, they had Barnett. And then they tried Patrick Johnson. They didn't love it. So they went out and traded for Robert Quinn. They want to come at you in waves. They now have that fourth pass rusher with Nolan Smith. And that's a luxury. They get to sort of, he doesn't have to go and play and be impactful. He can play 20% of the snaps and get sort of up to speed. And if there is an injury, he'll be forced to play more. But why are people into this Nolan Smith at all, Paul? Just because Nicholas Morrow stinks?
Correct.
And they say
that there's your answer, John. They're scared about Nicholas Morrow being the starter.
But here's the thing, guys. Nicholas Morrow is a better all-ball linebacker than Nolan Smith is an all-ball linebacker. He's a better player. Now, Nolan Smith is a better edge rusher than Nicholas Morrow is an all-ball linebacker, but that's apples and oranges. If you're playing an all-ball linebacker, you're doing a disservice. Nicholas Morrow is better at that position. Is that hard for people to understand?
Well, I'm just glad that we have moved beyond the banal 3-4 versus 4-3 discussion, and that I know that was one of your favorites, John. Yeah, I'm glad that we have that it's more mainstream to accept the idea of being multiple, up front, because it's just kind of like, gotten rid of that like vapid kind of, are they going to play this way? Are they going to play that way? I mean, that's like commonplace now. In the NFL, I don't think anybody really does. Any team talk about base 3-4 or 4-3 anymore? I feel like we've kind of moved on from all that.
No, it's five DBs are on the field 90% of the time. How can either be a base defense anymore?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Kobe Dean was the Eagles' third linebacker last year. He played 34 snaps. I mean, he was their third linebacker. TJ stayed healthy. Kaiser stayed healthy. He played 34 snaps, and people are still talking. There are some people who still say 4-3-3-4. That's how much he was on the field. And by the way, those 34 snaps were not as a third linebacker. they were just garbage time as one of the 2 linebackers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore.
They're not a 4-3, and they're not going to be a 4-3 anytime soon. KK, this is stuff that I usually see on your side. I didn't see it there. Between you and I didn't see it anywhere. I just wanted to know if you heard about it. Eagles put individual single game tickets up on sale the other day at 10 o'clock in the morning. Do you know how long it took them to sell out?
Less than an hour.
Was it that?
Oh, are you asking me if I know?
Yeah, if you knew, yeah.
Oh, no, I don't know.
You didn't see it reported anywhere, did you?
No, I can check. I do have a guy. I know a guy down there I can ask.
Okay.
So maybe I can. That's a good story idea. Maybe I'll do that on a Friday while I'm sitting here icing my knee from the charity game.
Oh, icing the knee.
Yeah, the turf is unforgiving, man. Yeah, it's like
that turf is awful, dude. That turf is. Yeah. I mean, you can tell from watching Eagles practice, just standing there. There is a huge difference from the grass to the bubble. I thought I
was going to have to do a. Oh my God, what's the Ravens coach? Brian Billick, and reach down and pull up the turf.
Oh, I was on the field that night when he did that.
Real quick, can I just say real quick, because now I moved back to the suburbs and I grew up playing on grass, but when we were playing soccer leagues and everything else in the city, it's all turf. The difference between turf and grass cannot be like understated. It is that bad.
Oh, yeah.
So when you hear these guys say that like they hate playing, I don't know, they don't like playing at like MetLife, right? Because of the turf on there, right?
Yeah, it's terrible.
That is absolutely like a real thing. It just you don't have any, like, when I play on grass, I feel pretty good the next day and I can do like pretty much anything. When I play on turf, like the recovery time is almost double. Like you can feel it in your joints, like your knees, especially because there's no give. You know, you're coming down on like, you know, you got the grass and you got the like little rubber pellets and there's like a cushion underneath it, but underneath it's like concrete. So there's no give on that. And that's my diatribe on that real quick.
It's a good diatribe. I agree with you 100%. Now, last one for me at Kevin _Kinkead. Make sure you follow Kevin on Twitter at Crossing Broad. They do a tremendous job. Here's one I've been meaning to run by you because I want your thoughts on this. Did Nick Sirianni do an okey doke on us and replace Shane Steichen and Sean Desai and Jonathan Gannon with 2 people? Because he has these new roles. He's got Marcus Brady is the senior offensive assistant. Matt Patricia is the senior defensive assistant. They didn't exist before. Those roles on this staff didn't exist. Did he replace those guys with 2 people? And we just haven't figured it out yet?
Well, that's interesting. Well, that would be different than what Doug did a couple of years ago, where he had like assistants, but no coordinators, right? Or what was the title of the primary?
Yeah, he had Rick. That was the Rich Scanzarello sort of era. That's 12.
That was foisted on him, right? That wasn't a Doug choice.
No, it was more of a Rich choice. Like Rich. That was a mess. Well, I need 45 minutes to.
No, wait. But it was confirmed that Brian Johnson is calling plays, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's what I look at more than anything. I mean, the structure is the structure. I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's all those guys are going to be involved with a collaborative game plan. And I mean, to me, the most important thing is who's calling the plays. You know.
All right. Well, then I'll put it this way.
Yeah.
Is it an insurance policy? You know, because you have 2 unproven coordinators for the most part. Brian did it in college. Sean did it for 1 year in Chicago. And all of a sudden, you have Marcus Brady, offensive coordinator in this league. Matt Patricia, longtime defensive coordinator, head coach.
Yeah.
Are those insurance policies in case the young guys with no experience can, hey, we got a safety net?
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it. You know, I mean, I'm sure that you are looking at things differently when you lose both of your coordinators in the same season. You know, I think coaches are always like tinkering and thinking of structure too. You know, I mean, that's been like a kind of a trendy thing in the last like 5 years or so, is not to necessarily have like the traditional offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, but assign different roles to these guys. But, you know, it's hard for me to like, I'm interested in that topic. It's always hard to talk about though, because like, unless you're in the building, unless you're part of like the game planning and the day-to-day, that kind of stuff, it's hard talk about it with any kind of authority. You know what I mean? That's why the Frank Reich and John DiFilippo thing killed me. It like took my soul over like the 5 years that we were arguing about that, because it's like Frank Reich didn't call the plays, right? So unless you were like unless you bugged that room and had like we were spying on them, like the NSA or something like that. Or is it the TSA, the NSA, whatever it is?
NSA.
Unless you're like, unless you're like,
just
unless you're spying on them, or you were like a fly on the wall in that room. Like nobody was ever able to like quantitatively measure the amount of like the contribution that Frank Reich had to that. So when people had this take where they were like, well, it was Frank Reich and John DiFilippo and Doug wasn't doing anything. Well, I mean, there was never going to be any way to prove that or disprove that definitively. You know what I mean? Yep. So that's why I was always like a N/A, not applicable for me. It's a good topic, John. I just don't. I'll be honest. I don't know what to.
But you know what? You know why it's a legit topic, as you say. If you've got ears behind closed doors and everything, and then you get the answer to those questions. If not, we're all outside speculating. I'll prove it to you, Kinkead. Who's the assistant head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles?
Oh, I have
literally. It's Jamal Singleton. Literally.
That's his title. There's only one assistant head coach of the Eagles, and it's the running back coach. And if I had given you 5 guesses, you might have gone 5 different directions before you got around to Jamal Singleton.
But they still have him doing.
Read in between on the titles or whatever, and you just make yourself nuts. Yeah, I'd rather get a TSA mic in there and find out for myself with the conversations they're having as actually what is the power structure.
Yeah, but you know, it's funny, man, because like, what did assistant head coach do for Deuce Staley? You know, like he had to leave anyway. It's like when like my wife gets a promotion and they just like make up. I'm just using this as an example. They just make up a title, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, we're gonna give you. Like, what do you want to? What do you want to be like? We'll make you assistant vice president or something like that.
There was a great. You're probably too young, Kevin, but there was a great. Are you a Cheers fan? You might have watched it on Netflix.
I'm old enough to have watched some of the show. I can't say it was on regular rotation.
There was a great Cheers episode. I tell Jody all the time. The whole premise was it was a Rebecca one for those who like the show. The whole premise was all the employees were disgruntled. They all wanted raises. Rebecca couldn't give them raises, so she gave them titles, and they were all happy because they got titles, made up titles. Carla was, executive director of waitresses, things like that. So, that's what the NFL has done with titles.
I forget what Woody was.
I think it was
Woody's title. He was the most excited about his title.
Yeah. My title is made up now because the company that owns us, when we sold Crossing Broad, we're now owned by a company in the UK. And like, I think somebody came up to me and asked me, they're like, what do you want your title to be? I was like, I don't know. Senior blogger. Senior. I think I'm senior managing editor is the name.
Senior managing blogging editor.
Blogger emeritus. I don't know, something like that. But again, it's interesting to think like, I guess the question is like, does it even matter? Because we need to have eyeballs and like ears.
Well, you know what I love? I remember talking to Doug about Deuce. You brought up Deuce as assistant head coach. I remember asking him, well, what are his, added roles, more significant roles? And he did mention that he let Deuce run the developmental program. And then I asked Nick Sirianni, sort of the same thing. I said, does Jamal run the developmental program or anything of that nature? And Nick's more honest. He's like, no. And Kevin Patullo was promoted to associate head coach.
Yes.
Because
he's associate ahead of assistant. That's what we all inquiring minds want to know, John McMullen.
Well, Nick flat out said, no added responsibilities. We just went. Basically, it's just
No, somebody in the comments brought up the office thing, the assistant to the regional manager. With the I don't know. It's just fun. Hey, can I ask you guys a question real quick, or are we running out of time?
No, we're running out of time, but go ahead and ask.
Okay. Did you guys come to a conclusion on what happened with the Gannon and Fangio thing? Like what that timeline was? Like what the missing part?
People are trying to make a story out of nothing.
Yeah. I mean,
but here's I never understood. The thing I couldn't piece together was what precluded Fangio from joining the Eagles anyway, because he didn't go official with Miami until Gannon went official.
No, he didn't sign the contract. So my assessment was always he already agreed to terms, and Jody and I discussed he already agreed to terms with Miami before the tampering aspect. My assumption was Vic's a professional. He's not going back on his word.
Yeah.
When he talked down in Miami, I assume you're talking about I cannot confirm or deny. Right. To me, he's saying, oh, well, maybe I would have screwed Miami, which makes him look bad. Because
he could have reneged, but you're saying he just gave a verbal and he honored his commitment to
exactly. So to me, it's could he have pulled the Josh McDaniels? Yeah. He didn't sign the paper. So he could have said, I'm going to go to Philadelphia. But it didn't change the thought process of, look, the Eagles thought Gannon was going to be back when he didn't get the Houston job. Mm-hmm. And when Arizona popped up, which was later in the process, obviously, after the NFC Championship game, when you remember, Jonathan did that interview where he said he's back. And then Arizona popped up. Vic had already agreed to become the coordinator in Miami, who, by the way, also made him the highest paid coordinator in NFL history. So, is he going to renege on that? Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. And Jeffrey might have just matched it, but I don't think Fangio ever gave him the chance. I just called him lead writer at Crossing Broad. If you want to know his title, don't look on his Twitter because he doesn't put his title down there. But you should read him and be on his site all the time. Crossing Broad, one of the best here in Philly. Mr. Kinkead, congratulations on your superior touchdown run yesterday. If for no other reason, you got to go to his Twitter to see the touchdown.
Yeah, you got to see the touchdown. And now you're paying for it. Ice those knees.
I got to say, I was impressed. I know I'm running the risk of getting his head a little swelled up here, but he looked pretty good, turning and changing directions.
Well, it was a success. Like I said, I didn't get injured. Nobody else got injured. And I don't think I came across as too much of a hard ass. So we hit all 3 bullet points there,
Very nice. KK, always a pleasure. Thanks, brother.
All right, see you guys.
We'll get Kevin Kinkead on again as the summer goes on here on Birds 365. Running a little late. Come back. We'll put a bow on the show. Stick around.